Cavs talk here. Coaching search is heating up. We've got two leading candidates, James Borrego, who reportedly is also a top candidate for the Lakers now that Dan Hurley turned him down. He interviewed yesterday with the Cavs. Kenny Atkinson is in today, and supposedly now Mika Nori from the Timberwolves is going to be in later this week. So those are the first three to get interviewed. It sounds like if they want Borrego, they're going to have to move on him quick. I know, like I said, the Lakers are interested, but he was reportedly turned off a little bit by them going to Hurley. He thought everything went well with them with his interviews. So, Joey, we'll start with you. You know, you were out last week. You're a big Cavs guy. What's your thoughts on the coaching search right now?
Well, I've been able to talk to some people who I trust, and from everything that I'm hearing, it's especially you brought up the the Lakers and the Cavs. The Lakers' job is not as appealing to a lot of coaches as the Cavs' job is, at least long term. You're going to obviously have AD and LeBron. If LeBron resigns, I think he still has to resign. Maybe he's going to pull something crazy out, but assuming that everything goes smoothly, I think long term, as long as the Cavs sign Mitchell, the Cavs job is just more appealing to most coaches. So I think we'll see what happens as soon as this finals is over. Maybe even before then, as far as that coaching search goes. And really it comes down to, from what I am hearing, the Cavs do not want to move Darius Garland. And it has even been reports that he is now being the front offices are telling teams that he's actually untouchable. So they now have to sell whoever the coach they want to bring is. They got to sell them on a Garland and Mitchell backcourt. So you got to be willing to come into that Garland Mitchell backcourt, unless something, unless a lot of people are wrong and maybe an offer is made that you can't turn down for Darius Garland. I think that you're probably going to see those two back in Cavs jerseys next year. And, whoever, and if that's the case, I actually think Atkinson might be the better fit for this job because he had Curry and he had Klay Thompson. Learning under Steve Kerr, that might be the better fit here, as opposed to New Orleans, where they also, they had a whole bunch of wings, and the Cavs do not have one true wing. So I think that that might be the better fit, but that's time will tell. We'll see. And we'll see if anything happens. There's also reports that the Cavs want to move up in the trade in the draft. How true that is, I don't know.
That's weird, and a supposed weak draft. I don't understand that.
I mean, yeah, I don't know if maybe it's moving somebody and trying to get someone younger, or I don't know. I just don't. If you're not trading Garland, I don't know where the value is. Even though I think Allen is valuable, and I know there's teams out there who also really like Jared Allen. I just can't see you moving Jared Allen either, unless you're going to pick up a wing. I mean, that's you have. It's very easy for us fans to basically be armchair GMs and say, oh, I'll trade this person for to go and get this wing. Okay, that's great, and usually it includes Darius Garland but then who's going to be your point guard? Then who's going to be your small forward, or your shooting guard? It's never really addressed, and it's you got to find the right coach, and then what's that coach's strengths? What does he need to work on? And we saw with JB, I really liked JB. I really did. I thought that he was a great coach. He really did great things for this team, but I think that it was really kind of the end of the year. He just couldn't figure out what lineups to go with. He couldn't find, good playoff teams. They know they're 8 guys, maybe 9 guys if you're lucky, that they are going to play in the playoffs. And it just seems like JB always got in his own way with that. yes, we got to the second round, but we barely got to the second round by the Orlando Magic. So I think that really at the end of the day, that is probably what cost them. But I really did like JB. I thought he did great things here with with the Cavs, and I think the next coach is going to do great things too. It's just a matter of who's it going to be, how fast are we going to get someone new in here, and is that coach going to sell? Is he going to be able to sell the front office on changes he wants to make, or is it is it truly there really are players that are untouchable? Garland and is DG really untouchable? And that's a time will tell type thing.
All right, Marshawn, I know you're obviously not outside Cleveland, but this would be more of an outside perspective because you're being a Lakers fan. What are you seeing as far as the Cavs coaching search goes, and as far as the roster construction for this season?
I mean, everything Joey said, I kind of agree. I agree with it. I wasn't at first a fan of the Cavs getting Donovan Mitchell because I felt like, you kind of already have a small point guard. You need to do everything you can to keep size around him to kind of protect him. Because at one point, if you want to go back to the Warriors, Steph Curry was kind of the smallest player on the court. So what they do, they got as much height as they could around him. That way he didn't always have to guard, the biggest guard. He could probably find a mismatch with a wing that probably is not a great shooter, even though he may be 6'6", 6'7", but he's not really that good at shooting. And the Cavs went and got two guys who, I'm not gonna say do the same thing, but their style in a sense is the same. Like they score first guards and they both great at facilitating. In order for that to work, you're gonna have to decide whether it's not really whether. You're gonna have to decide what you do with Jared Allen. You can't have two small guards and then two bigs, and one big really doesn't have an offensive package behind 18 feet from the hoop. So I think that it will be Hugh of the Cavs to, some way, somehow convince Evan Mobley that the 5 is in your future. We've seen it in that game against Boston, the elimination game. He got 30 some odd points against Boston playing the 5. I think that's where he best serves at. If you're gonna get the best out of him, kind of like an Anthony Davis role. So most of these guys don't want to play it because it's more physicality than probably playing a power forward role. But I mean, in order for the Cavs to be successful, you're gonna have to have, if you're gonna keep Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, you're gonna have to have Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, and two wings. You could have Isaac Okoro if the plan is to keep them, but you're gonna have to have two wings that can really shoot and really defend, and on each half of the court. And I mean, that's a tough thing to ask when you have guys under contract like Max Strus, you have under contract for some odd years. Karis LeVert, you still got under contract for another year or so.
One more year.
Yeah, like it's really they're gonna have to sit down and really figure out what makes sense. Do we keep a Jared Allen and possibly lose one of our guards, or do you really stick to our words and say we're keeping Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, but we're going to put 6'5", 6'6", 6'5" at minimum and above wings around them that's really good at guarding, at defense, and really good at shooting the 3-ball. I mean, Joey was right. They got past Orlando by the skin of their teeth. I felt like Donovan Mitchell in maybe 3 games max was the best player on the floor. Paolo Campero was a different animal. A guy that I don't think you would want to see again next year. So, as far as head coach, I would go with James Borrego just because of the relationship he has with Donovan Mitchell, and maybe that could, bring Donovan Mitchell, bring a different level of Donovan Mitchell. Like Donovan Mitchell said allegedly that he wants to be one of the faces of the league. Well, I mean, what what better than, like actually showing that you could be one of the faces of the league and complete dominance from start to finish, but smart with it. Like there's points of the season where I feel like Donovan Mitchell shot IQ was, just, I'm not going to say he didn't know what he was doing, but it was just kind of like either a careless shot or just a shot where, he really wasn't paying attention to the flow of the game. So I think it all starts with, me personally, what you gonna do with, Jared Allen, and then somebody that can, get the best out of Donovan Mitchell. Because I think Darius Garland is gonna be Darius Garland, an 18-point to 20-point guy who can get you anywhere between 5 to 8 assists. Like that's gonna be him. Darius Garland's problem is, he doesn't assert himself when needed. How many times in the playoffs did the Cavs need Darius Garland for 25 or more points, and he only could get you 15? Like he has to figure out ways to assert himself a little bit more dominant alongside Donovan Mitchell. The Cavs will be fine. They'll be at minimum a second round team, and you go from there.
James, do you have any favorite between Borrego and Atkinson, and even throw Nori in there now with him getting an interview?
With Atkinson, I know, Joe, you mentioned about him sitting next to the Steve Kerr on the bench, the Warriors winning some rings, but, we just had that. We had Luke Walton on the bench under JB, and, you would think that you could get some kind of Steph Clay type coaching, and probably it was there, but it just didn't work out with Garland and Mitchell. So that, I don't know. I look at the list. We talked about this last week a little bit. I don't see one guy really sticking out over the other. The one thing I can say about the roster, though, if you're going to come out and say that you're going to keep the core four, I think that could be a little bit of a smokescreen, because if you're trying to hire a coach and you're looking at your roster, and you're maybe going to trade some of your best players, and all that's coming out right now, and you're trying to bring this guy in and sell him to what you have. Well, during the interview process, they better be talking about it. Hey, if we're going to change this roster up, what are you thinking? Are you going to move Donovan over to the one and have somebody else in the backcourt, so that way Donovan's the smallest guy in the backcourt? Because for me, the roster feels like, after now the last 2 years and seeing how we lost, more injuries this year than last year, but the physical play in the playoffs, we're more like a regular season roster. It's a fun roster. We had the opportunity to finish second in the East if we took that last game serious, but I think we played how we were supposed to play so we could get that 4 seed and go up against an inexperienced Orlando team. And as we all saw, we needed that to be able to get to that next level, because Boston played at a different level there in round 2, plus us dealing with our injuries. But I just don't see. I think back to Dame and CJ in Portland, as well as that combo could score in the regular season. It just didn't really go anywhere in the playoffs. So I just think Darius, every time I was watching him in the playoffs, and, bless him, man, he plays hard. He could put up a lot of points. It just, he looked too small at so many moments in the playoffs. And part of it could be because he's had his face broken how many times?
Yeah.
He has dealt with a lot of injuries to his head in his face area. So I give him credit. It's not because he's not tough, but, he could have been maybe a little gun shy going to the hoop, when sometimes we saw him just kind of throw it up and it's like, where's it going? Is he even aiming for the square on the glass? Tough situation. I think he had off the court too. I think he lost a family member, a grandmother or something that from this year. So, maybe this roster does come back, and this new coach can put us together and see what happens, and hopefully we can get some health. But I am concerned going into next year's, how is this roster going to match up in the playoffs? Thankfully, we don't have to deal with the West. This year there was a lot of injuries in the East, with Embiid being out too, Milwaukee going through their injuries. So, I think that's why Boston looked fresh going into the finals, because of how many games they didn't have to play. So we'll see what they do. It's going to be a challenge. I just hope the coach that comes in really wants to be here, and it's not like our second or third guy on our list that we want.
I think that the Borrego thing too, I think what they're looking at is, especially when he was in Charlotte, he got the most out of his guard play and scoring out of his guards. So I think they think he can be beneficial to both Mitchell and Garland, and figuring out a way for them to coexist. I think with the Allen thing, I think if there is a guy to go, it's going to be him. And they have the relationship with New Orleans, and it seems to make too much sense with the Cavs needing a wing of a Allen Ingram swap.
Yeah, you get Ingram, and you figure out a way to get some backup guards. I don't see no reason why this team can't. I mean, another name that the Cavs should consider is Chris Quinn. I think
agree.
Chris Quinn.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't do Borrego, I think, and as much as I really don't want the Cavs to give a first time head coach a shot, because I feel like the direction that this team is trying to go, you shouldn't have a coach that's making first time mistakes and stuff like that. You should have somebody that's ready to go and ready to lead this team at least past the second round. So I feel like Chris Quinn he stepped in for the coach down there in Miami, and I think
Spoelstra.
He's from up this way. He's from up this way. So the Cavs seem to love these Northeast Ohio guys. So but y'all got to get out of here, man. Like I'll definitely jump on another time within the next few weeks, man. I got to go get some food. I'm starving. My mom's hungry. So.
All right, I appreciate you coming on and talking about the softball game.
Man. I appreciate it.
So, we'll get you on again.
All right, Marshawn.
All right.
Yep, take care, Marshawn.
Yes, sir.
We need to get an Uber sponsor so he can eat.
Right? Yeah.
Right during the show. I want to see it delivered right while we're talking.
Uber Eats.
The one other thing I wanted to mention about the coaching before we move on is the Dan Gilbert effect. He's supposedly heavily involved now that he's feeling good, he's healthy. Is there a Dan Gilbert wildcard name out there? In the past we've had guys like David Blatt and the John Beeline disaster. Those were Dan Gilbert guys.
Dan Gilbert's going to bring LeBron as a player coach.
I said that.
That's the only thing that makes me nervous is if everybody falls in love with Borrego, and then all of a sudden out of left field comes a Gilbert hire that nobody's seen or heard about.
There's been a championship won with a player coach, Lou Boudreau, in 1948. For the Indians.
I do have two things real quick. Number one, James, you made a really great. You said something really great, which is it could be a smokescreen. Saying that these players are untouchable, and then saying to the coaches, "Okay, well, what would you do? How would our roster look to you?" So that's something that is obviously could be done. There was supposedly interest from the San Antonio Spurs for Darius Garland. Unfortunately, unless you're giving me Wemby, I'm not giving you. You could give me your entire roster. I'm not taking it.
Devin Vassell, I would have been interested in, but they said, "Oh, he's untouchable too." Well, then we don't want your scraps.
What else do you have, San Antonio? You have nothing. You have draft picks. We don't want. We traded draft picks for.
Hey, we need a coach.
Yeah.
Garland for Popovich. There you go.
Oh my, Keldon Johnson, your next 3 first-round picks, and Popovich. Maybe then I think about it. But I love DG. Again, James, like you said, he's been punched in the face early in the year and midway through the year every year for the last 3 years. So he's constantly having to come back from people just apparently just eye pokes and elbows and fists and that's that's rough having to come back from that constantly. But I'm not going to be a DG apologist. He plays hard, and we'll see what happens if this is really truly the team that's going to be on the court come next season. And finally, I do want to say rest in peace to Jerry West. He passed away today. I believe today was either today or late last night. He was 86 years old. The Logo, a Lakers legend, and obviously an icon for being the NBA, the silhouette of the NBA logo. So, thoughts and prayers to his family, and rest in peace, because he absolute legend.
Yeah, Hall of Fame player and Hall of Fame general manager. All right. Moving on. I did have one rant about there's a couple national media members out there that, talking about Cavaliers trades. And one in particular brought up the Nets, and he said, I think the Cavs would be a great trade partner for either Garland or Mitchell. The Nets have plenty of first-round picks to give up. I think some of these people aren't understanding this is not a rebuild situation.
Mm-hmm.
Whether Mitchell leaves or not, if Mitchell leaves, we're going to trade him for other pieces we can put around Garland and Mobley and Allen. If they trade Garland, it's the same thing. We're going to get pieces we can put around the other three. There's not a rebuild situation. We don't need first-round picks. It's not going to happen in either scenario. So just kind of get irritated when I see some of these national guys talking about, this team has all the first-round picks that the Cavs can recoup. We don't need first-round picks. We want to win. We're trying to win a championship, not rebuild.
And the one thing from last week, Joey, that we brought up, I know you weren't on the show, but we brought up Mobley, because Mobley, I think, has to become that too. I think his shot attempts need to go up. I think the confidence that he got maybe in this between Orlando and the Boston series can help elevate him. Plus, just age. I mean, he's a young guy. So I think some people develop slower, but we know the skill set's there. I think he has a beautiful mid-range jump shot. He's a good free throw shooter. He's trying to expand his game out to the three-point line. He's got a nice shot. He's got a great touch around the basket, great defensively. I think at some point he's got to be the number 2 next to Mitchell, regardless of what Jared Allen and Darius Garland are doing.
Well, I mean, I kind of agree with you with almost everything you said. But for me, it goes. For me, it's weight and aggression. He needs to add more weight, and he needs to be more aggressive. When he is more aggressive in a game, you can tell. You could tell by his, obviously you see his stats and by the scoreboard. They're usually up double digits when he's being when he's banging in there, getting those offensive rebounds, he's getting those blocks. When he's being aggressive, Evan Mobley, you're seeing what we're hoping, what people were hoping. This is where he should be already, not once every 5-6 games. So is that maybe because he has Jared Allen? That's, people have asked that question. I don't have the answer. And all these these people, this team's interested. You know what? The only time I've seen anyone make something that was sort of, I thought to myself, I would potentially make that trade. And I don't even know all the pieces, but it revolved around Garland and Brandon Ingram from New Orleans. That would be something I would entertain, because that would bring us a wing who averages 25 and he's 26 and he averages 20 points, 5 boards, 5 assists, a block, 2 steals. I mean, Brandon Ingram's he's a good wing, and they have other wings. They got Trey Murphy, they got Herb Jones, they got Zion. So I can't remember the exact trade. It might have been like CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram for Darius Garland, Jared Allen, and maybe Niang or something like that.
Yeah, I saw that too. It was something along those lines.
That would be something I would possibly entertain, even though McCollum's getting up there. And it's still 2 small guards, but now you have a 6'8" wing, and then you move Mobley to the 5, and we'd be able to bring someone in at power forward.
I think the other one too that would be a no-brainer for me is for Mikal Bridges from the Nets. He's
for me, Bridges is he's like a Mobley. When he wants to be aggressive, he's like unstoppable. And when the other games that he's not, he's got like 16 points and 5 assists and or 5 boards, 2 assists, whatever. He's not as consistent to me as, say, a Brandon Ingram. So if that one would be a little harder for me to be like, okay, but yeah, he's still a wing. I put him in the probably top 15 wings in the NBA. So if that's where the direction that they want to go, and for me, I think that if you want to be an NBA champion, you have to have either a Luka Doncic who can play point guard or play wing, or an actual wing. Jason Tatum, LeBron, KD. I mean, Giannis can basically play every position on the court. So it does, I mean, you want to have that size. You want to have that guy that can hit the three, who can hit that, 15-foot jumper, who can get to the rim, who can pass the ball, who can rebound the ball. That's what you need. That's why they're so important in today's game. And the Cavs are the closest thing we have is Dean Wade. And don't get me wrong, love Dean Wade. Honestly, one of the nicest human beings on the planet. But if you're talking about winning a championship, you're gonna need something more than Dean Wade.
Yeah,
that's where I was going to go with Mobley, because that's the one thing I left out. Personality. The dude is so soft spoken. Like, I would love to see him pissed off.
You know what?
I don't know if that's going to play into his game, but I think that would help with his aggression on the court. Sure, he needs to eat a few cheeseburgers that Sabathia used to eat when he was in town, for sure. Put some weight on and really, hold his own in the paint. But I think the concern too with Jarrett and Mobley, and then you look at Darius to Mitchell, is that our two guys that are out of that core four are so small, and they're the ones that can really create their own shot off the dribble. And I don't know that. I think Mitchell's way better than Garland is at that. And I think we need somebody with size that can create their own shot off the dribble. Look at what Jaylen Brown and gosh, yes, Tatum. That's what I think. That's kind of on our it's really playing to your point of a Brandon Ingram, somebody that's got size that can create their own shot.
I mean, they've been interested in Ingram for the last 2 years now, supposedly. And I heard this. I don't know what the deal was going to be, but supposedly Kobe was trying to get him at the deadline last year.
I think that both teams are just trying to figure out what do they need, because New Orleans has Zion Williamson, but they need him. They need him to be an everyday player.
Yeah.
So if he becomes that, I think that you can then look around and go, okay, well, what do we need? Do we, McCollum's getting a little older. Do we want to go after, Darius Garland? Because they have the players. They can say, okay, we'll give you Brandon Ingram, because then, they have Trey Murphy and Herb Jones behind them, who are both, one of those guys can step up and easily be, they've both proven to be good players, especially when Ingram was hurt. So it's not like they have the ammunition to step up and get, kind of whoever they, not to say whoever they want, but to get someone like Darius Garland. It's just a matter of, are the Cavs open to it? Are the Cavs really being honest when they say that we're not going to move off the core four? So like I said, time will tell, and hopefully we'll have something to talk about here in the next few weeks.
Oh, we talked about this last week. Who was the last good small forward the Cavs had?
LeBron.
Clarence said Alonzo. Well, before LeBron. Clarence said Alonzo G.
Yeah.
I would say probably Hot Rod Williams.
Yeah, it goes back to that era.
I mean, I love Chris Mills. I loved, I shouldn't say I love Lamont Murray, but he was a pretty solid three. He was solid next to Wesley Person.
Missing person.
But yeah, you're.
I mean, if like, do you mean good as in like actually good, or
like
good
a guy that can shoot and score, pretty much?
You know who wasn't bad, and it was just a forgotten time in Cleveland, was what was it? Was it Darius Miles?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's I would probably say, but I mean, you're talking. I mean, we had Z, so you were talking probably about like, you're at that time you're talking the, just terrible players, but who have to, someone's got to score. Right. So I mean, if you're asking me, I would probably say Hot Rod Williams, because they had, what was that? There was Doherty at center, Nance at power forward. Williams was like a 6'10" or 6'11" small forward. Craig Elo was
he came off the bench more as a 4, I think.
Yeah,
Who?
I
Mike
think
Sanders was
Mike
kind of.
Sanders actually started at the 3.
We had
I
Mike
thought-
Sanders
I thought-
back
I thought
then, and then it
Williams
went to Winston Bennett. Was also from Kentucky. He started to start a lot of games as a 3.
I thought,
But he was not
I was thought
good.
the starting 5 was Price, Elo, Williams, Nance, and Doherty.
No, Hot Rod was the 6th man.
No, the more you know.
I think what you're talking about is a little bit later in the, maybe, I don't know, because I remember Hot Rod coming off the bench quite a bit because it was that Sanders was the 3, and then about 88, I think.
Yeah, the good late 80s teams. He was the 6th man. The Sanders.
Yeah, but eventually when when the uniforms turned to hideous, that black and powder blue, yeah, I think Hot Rod was a starter more.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
later in his career there, but he had a nice shot. But I think he was more maybe a 4-5 type guy. But
I mean,
we didn't. We brought up Danny Ferry too. I know that's very exciting.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I know that. I mean, from the 89-90 season until the 94-95 season, and this is all with Cleveland, he was averaging between 30 and 35 minutes a game. So those are starter minutes.
Yeah, he came off the bench, but he definitely played starter minutes.
Rest
All
in
right.
peace, Hot Rod.
I like Hot Rod.
Yeah, rest in peace.
He was awesome.
He was awesome. Yeah, those were some fun teams.